In the silent towers of the city, where the wind whispers secrets through cracked walls, some echoes refuse to fade, no matter how brightly the sun shines. It was a hot summer day in Mumbai when John and Emily Carter decided to make the big move. John, a tall man with short brown hair and a constant smile, had just landed a job as a financial analyst at a big firm downtown. He was 32, full of energy, and always talking about how this was their chance to build a better life. Emily, his wife of 5 years, was 29, with long dark hair and a quiet way about her. She taught English at a local school, but she had taken a break to settle into the new city. They had come from a small town up north where life was slow and predictable. Mumbai was different, loud, crowded, and full of promise, or so John kept saying. They had searched for weeks for an affordable place. Rentals in the city were sky high, but then their agent, a chatty man named Raj, showed them Skyview Towers. It was an old building, built back in the 1980s, with 20 floors of gray concrete that loomed over the bustling streets. The location was perfect, close to John's office and near a market where Emily could shop for groceries. The apartment on the 15th floor was spacious, 2 bedrooms, a living room with big windows, a kitchen that needed some cleaning, and even a small balcony overlooking the sea in the distance. The rent was surprisingly low, almost half what they expected. Why so cheap? Emily asked Raj as they rode the creaky elevator up. It made a groaning sound, like it was tired from years of use. Raj shrugged, adjusting his tie. Previous tenants left suddenly. Family emergency, they said. Nothing wrong with the place. Just needs a good dusting. John squeezed Emily's hand. See? Our lucky break. When they stepped inside, the air felt stale, like the windows hadn't been opened in months. Dust motes floated in the sunlight, streaming through the glass. The floors were wooden, worn from footsteps, and the walls were painted a faded white. Emily walked around, touching the counters in the kitchen. They were cold even in the heat. "It's big," she said, trying to sound excited. But something nagged at her, a feeling like they weren't alone, even though the place was empty. They signed the lease that day and moved in a week later. Boxes piled up in the living room as friends from John's old job helped carry furniture. Emily unpacked the kitchen first, stacking plates and cups in the cabinets. She found an old spoon in one drawer, rusted and bent. "Weird," she muttered, tossing it out. John set up the TV, laughing about how they could watch the city lights at night. That first evening, they ordered pizza and sat on the balcony. The sun set over the horizon, turning the sky orange. Below, cars honked and people hurried home. "This is it, Em," John said, clinking his glass of soda against hers. "Our new beginning." Emily nodded, but as the night grew darker, the apartment seemed to change. The lights in the living room flickered once, just for a second. "Power surge?" she asked. "Old building," John replied, not looking up from his phone. They went to bed early, tired from the move. The bedroom was simple. A double bed, a wardrobe, and a nightstand. Emily lay there staring at the ceiling. The fan spun slowly, making a soft whir. Then she heard it, a faint sound, like someone sighing in the next room. She sat up. "John, did you hear that?" He was already asleep, breathing steadily. She listened again. Nothing. Just the wind, she told herself, lying back down. But sleep came slowly, and when it did, her dreams were uneasy. Shadows moving in the corners. A face watching from the window. The next morning, everything felt normal again. John woke up early, made coffee in their new machine, and hummed a tune while getting ready for work. Emily waved him off at the door, then started unpacking more boxes. She arranged books on the shelf in the living room, novels she loved, like old classics from Jane Austen and some mystery thrillers. As she worked, she noticed a small scratch on the wall near the window, like nails had dragged across it. "Must be from previous movers," she thought. By afternoon, the heat was intense. Emily opened the windows to let in a breeze. The city noise floated up, vendors shouting, buses rumbling. She sat on the couch with a glass of water, flipping through a magazine. That's when the first odd thing happened. A book fell from the shelf, thudding to the floor. She jumped, spilling some water. The shelf was steady, no earthquake or anything. She picked up the book. It was a horror story she hadn't read in years. "Coincidence," she whispered, putting it back. As the day wore on, Emily explored the building a bit. She took the elevator down to the lobby, where a security guard named Kumar sat at a desk reading a newspaper. He was an older man with gray hair and a mustache. "New tenants?" he asked, looking up. "Yes, 15th floor," Emily said. "Nice building," Kumar nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am, but be careful with the nights. Sometimes the power goes out," she smiled. "Thanks for the tip." Back upstairs, she cooked dinner, simple pasta with sauce from a jar. John came home around 7, tired but happy. First day was great. Boss seems nice. They ate at the small table, talking about plans. Maybe buy curtains, paint the walls brighter. After dinner, they watched a movie on the laptop. Halfway through, the lights flickered again, longer this time. The fan slowed, then sped up. "We should tell the agent," Emily said. John agreed. Tomorrow, that night, the sighs returned. Emily woke around 2 a.m., heart pounding. The sound was clearer now, like a woman breathing heavily in the hallway. She nudged John. "Listen," he grumbled, half asleep. "It's the pipes, Em. Old plumbing." She got up anyway, slipping on a robe. The hallway was dark, the floor cold under her feet. She flipped the switch. Nothing happened at first, then the light buzzed on. Empty. But as she turned back, she saw it. A shadow on the wall, tall and thin, like a person standing there. She blinked, and it was gone. Back in bed, she couldn't shake the chill. The apartment felt bigger, emptier. Morning came slowly, with sunlight chasing away the fear. But Emily wondered if they had made a mistake moving here. Over the next few days, little things added up. A door creaking open on its own. Footsteps echoing from above, but they were on a high floor. No one above but the roof. Emily mentioned it to John, but he brushed it off. "City sounds. You'll get used to it." One afternoon, while cleaning the second bedroom they used as storage, Emily found something under the bed. An old necklace, silver with a small pendant. It looked antique, dusty. She held it up to the light. Pretty, she thought, but when she touched it, a wave of sadness hit her, like memories that weren't hers. She put it in a box, hiding it away. John worked late that week, leaving Emily alone more. She started feeling isolated, the high-rise like a cage in the sky. The view was beautiful, but staring out too long made her dizzy. This is real life, she told herself. No ghosts or nonsense. But deep down the doubts grew. The building had a history, she could feel it. And as the sun set on their first week, the whispers began, soft at first, like words lost in the wind. Emily woke to the sound of Mumbai's morning chaos filtering through the balcony window. Horns blared, vendors shouted, and the city hummed with life 15 floors below. The sunlight streamed into the apartment, making the events of the past week feel like a bad dream. John was already up, sipping coffee at the small kitchen table, scrolling through emails on his phone. His suit was neatly pressed and his hair was combed back, ready for another long day at the office. "Morning," he said, barely looking up. "Sleep okay?" Emily rubbed her eyes, her head heavy from restless sleep. "Not really," she said, pouring herself a cup from the pot. The coffee smelled bitter, like it had been sitting too long. "I heard things again last night. Whispers." John sighed, setting his phone down. It's an old building. Creaks, pipes, neighbors. You're just not used to it yet." He stood, grabbed his briefcase, and kissed her forehead. "I'll be home by 7. Try to relax, okay?" "Unpack some more boxes." She forced a smile. "Sure." But as the door clicked shut behind him, the apartment felt too big, too quiet. The hum of the city outside seemed distant, like a radio turned low. She glanced at the living room, where boxes still sat half unpacked, and decided to keep busy. Routine would ground her, she thought. Emily started with the kitchen, organizing spices in the cabinet. The shelves were dusty, and she sneezed as she wiped them down. As she worked, she played music from her phone, soft pop to fill the silence. But halfway through a song, the music cut out, replaced by static. She tapped the screen. Nothing. Then, faintly through the static, she heard a whisper. "Emily," her name drawn out like a sigh. She yanked the phone away, heart racing. The screen flickered back to normal, the song resuming. "Just a glitch," she muttered, but her hands trembled as she set the phone down. She moved to the living room, unpacking books and photos. The big windows let in sunlight, but the room still felt cold. She arranged picture frames on a shelf, her and John at their wedding, smiling on a beach. Another of her parents back home, As she placed the last frame, a book slid off the shelf behind her, landing with a thud. It was the same horror novel from the other day. She stared at it, her pulse quickening. "Not again," she whispered, shoving it back in place. To distract herself, Emily decided to explore the building. She grabbed her keys and took the elevator down to the lobby. Kumar, the security guard, was at his desk, flipping through a newspaper. His glasses slid down his nose as he looked up. "Everything okay, ma'am?" "Yeah, just getting to know the place," Emily said, trying to sound casual. "Any other tenants I should meet?" Kumar hesitated, his eyes flickering to the elevator. "Most keep to themselves. Busy people, but maybe don't wander too late." His tone was odd, like he wanted to say more but didn't. Emily nodded, unsure what to make of it. She walked outside, the heat hitting her like a wall. The street was alive. Street vendors sold spicy chaat, motorbikes weaved through traffic, and a stray dog napped in the shade. She bought a mango from a cart and ate it slowly, the sweet juice dripping down her chin. For a moment, the normalcy of the city calmed her. She could almost forget the strange sounds. The book, the necklace. Back in the apartment, she decided to call her friend Sarah, who lived in Delhi. They'd been close in college, and Emily needed someone to talk to. She sat on the couch, phone pressed to her ear. "This place feels weird," she said after catching up. "Like I hear things at night. Shadows move." Sarah laughed, her voice crackling through the line. "New city, new home. You're probably just stressed. Remember when you thought your dorm was haunted because of a squeaky window?" Emily chuckled, but it felt hollow. "Maybe, but it's different. Like the air's heavy." "Give it a week," Sarah said. "You'll settle in." After the call, Emily felt a little better. She spent the afternoon cleaning the second bedroom, still full of boxes. As she sorted old clothes, she found the necklace again, the one she'd hidden in a box. It was cold to the touch, the pendant glinting in the dim light. A shiver ran through her. She tossed it into another drawer, slamming it shut. The day dragged on. She cooked lunch, leftover rice with vegetables, and ate alone at the table. The city buzzed outside, but inside, the silence pressed against her. Around 3 p.m., she sat on the balcony, watching clouds drift over the sea. A strange smell hit her, like damp earth or something rotting. She checked the kitchen trash, empty. The smell faded, but it left her uneasy. When John came home, he was tired, his tie loosened. "Long day," he said, collapsing on the couch. Emily told him about the book falling again, the static on her phone. He frowned but said, "Old wiring, maybe. Or you're working too hard unpacking. Let's watch something." They put on a comedy show, but Emily couldn't focus. Halfway through, the TV flickered, the screen going black for a moment. When it came back, the sound was off, like someone had muted it. John grabbed the remote, clicking buttons. "Cheap electronics," he muttered. But then the volume returned, loud and distorted, and a voice cut through the laughter. "Stay." It was low, almost a growl. Emily froze. John's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" She nodded, her throat tight. That wasn't the show. They checked the TV, the cables, everything. Nothing was wrong. John shook his head. "Maybe a neighbor's radio bled through. Happens in apartments." Emily didn't believe it. She went to bed early, leaving John to finish his emails. In the dark, the whispers came again, clearer now. "You're mine." She pulled the blanket over her head, heart pounding. The room felt alive, the air thick with something unseen. Morning came, and John was already gone for work. Emily sat at the kitchen table, staring at her coffee. She couldn't keep ignoring it. Something was wrong with this place. She opened her laptop and typed Skyview Towers, Mumbai history into the search bar. A few articles loaded, mostly about the building's construction in the 80s. But one caught her eye. A news piece from 2003. A woman, Lisa Gray, had lived in their apartment. She'd been found dead, fallen from the 15th floor. The article called it suicide, but neighbors said she'd been acting strange for weeks, talking to walls, screaming at night. Emily's stomach twisted. She remembered the necklace, the photo she'd found earlier. Was it Lisa's? She didn't want to check. Instead, she closed the laptop and walked to the balcony, needing air. The city sprawled below, but it felt far away, like she was trapped in a bubble. That evening, when John came home, she showed him the article. "Look at this. She lived here, John. Died here." He read it, his face tightening. "Sad, but it's just a coincidence. People die in old buildings all the time. But the noises, the TV, the book. Stress, he said, cutting her off. You're spooking yourself. Let's eat out tonight. Get you out of here. They went to a small restaurant nearby, a noisy place with spicy curry and warm naan. Emily tried to relax, but her eyes kept darting to the shadows, expecting something to move. Back home, as they got ready for bed, the lights flickered again. And in the quiet, Emily heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the empty second bedroom. Emily's days began to blur into a haze of unease. The apartment in Skyview Towers felt less like a home and more like a trap, its walls holding secrets she couldn't ignore. The morning after finding the article about Lisa Gray's death, Emily sat at the kitchen table, her coffee untouched. The mug was cold, the surface rippling slightly, as if something had brushed against it. She stared at it, waiting for it to move again, but it stayed still. The city outside roared with life, motorbikes weaving through traffic, vendors calling out prices for fruits and spices. But inside, the silence was heavy, broken only by the occasional creak of the old wooden floors. John had left for work at dawn, his briefcase in hand, promising to be home earlier. "Don't obsess over that article," he'd said, kissing her cheek. "It's just a sad story," but Emily couldn't let it go. The words from the 2003 news piece haunted her. Lisa Gray, 28, found dead after falling from the 15th floor. Neighbors reported her screaming at night, claiming she saw things. Police ruled it suicide. The image of Lisa's face, imagined from the description, lingered in Emily's mind. She hadn't found the photo again, but she remembered those sad eyes staring from the dusty frame she'd found under the couch. To keep busy, Emily decided to clean the apartment. She swept the floors, the broom scraping against the worn wood, kicking up dust that made her cough. She opened the balcony doors, letting in the warm, salty air from the sea. The city's noise was a comfort, a reminder that the world outside was real, normal. But as she swept near the living room window, she noticed scratches on the glass, faint, like fingernails had clawed at it from the inside. She touched them, her fingers trembling. Old marks, she told herself, but her voice shook. She moved to the second bedroom, still cluttered with boxes. As she sorted through old clothes and books, she found the necklace again, tucked inside a folded sweater. She hadn't touched that box since hiding it. The silver pendant gleamed, cold against her palm. A wave of sadness hit her, like a memory of loss that wasn't hers. She dropped it into a plastic bag, tied it shut, and shoved it deep into a drawer. "Stay there," she muttered, slamming it closed. Needing answers, Emily went back to her laptop. She searched deeper, typing Lisa Gray Skyview Towers death into the browser. A few more articles popped up, mostly repeats of the first. One mentioned Lisa was a writer, quiet, kept to herself. Another quoted a neighbor saying, "She wasn't right in the end," kept saying someone was in her apartment watching her. Emily's heart raced. She bookmarked the pages and closed the laptop, her hands sweaty. She needed to talk to someone in the building. Maybe a neighbor knew more. She grabbed her keys and headed to the 14th floor, where she'd seen an older woman watering plants in the hallway once. The elevator hummed, its lights flickering as it descended. When the doors opened, the hallway was dim, the bulbs buzzing faintly. Emily knocked on the door of apartment 1402. An old woman answered, her gray hair tied in a bun, her eyes sharp behind thick glasses. A nameplate read Mrs. Sharma. "Hi, I'm Emily from 1503, she said, forcing a smile. "I just moved in upstairs. I wanted to ask about the building." "It's history." Mrs. Sharma's face tightened. "History? It's an old place. Nothing special." Her voice was clipped, like she didn't want to talk. Emily hesitated, then said, "I read about a woman, Lisa Gray. She lived in my apartment." "Did you know her?" The woman's eyes widened, just for a moment. "Don't ask about her," she said sharply. "Some things are better left alone." She stepped back, closing the door halfway. "You're new. Keep your doors locked at night." The door shut before Emily could respond. She stood there, her stomach twisting. Back in the elevator, the air felt colder, like it clung to her skin. When she reached the 15th floor, the hallway was quiet. But as she unlocked her apartment door, she heard a faint sob. Soft, like a woman crying behind the walls. She froze, key still in the lock. The sound stopped. She stepped inside, her breath shallow. The rest of the day dragged. Emily tried to focus on normal tasks. She washed dishes, the hot water stinging her hands. She folded laundry, the repetitive motion calming her nerves. But every so often, she'd catch something. A shadow in the corner of her eye, gone when she turned. A faint whisper of her name when she walked past the second bedroom. She avoided that room now, keeping the door closed. When John came home, he was late again, his shirt wrinkled from a long day. "Sorry, meetings ran over," he said, tossing his keys on the counter. Emily showed him the new articles, her voice shaky. "Lisa was like me, John. Alone here a lot. She heard things, saw things. It's not just me." He read the screen, his jaw tight. This was years ago. Buildings have tragedies. It doesn't mean anything." He pulled her into a hug. "You're letting this get in your head. Maybe call Sarah again, talk it out." But Emily didn't want to call Sarah. Sarah would laugh it off, like last time. Instead, she cooked dinner, chicken curry, the spices filling the kitchen with warmth. They ate quietly, the TV on low. John talked about his day, some deal his team was closing. Emily nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The lights flickered during dinner just once. John didn't notice. That night, as they got ready for bed, Emily brushed her teeth in the bathroom. The mirror fogged up, even though the water was cold. She wiped it clean, but as she did, she saw something behind her reflection, a figure, tall and thin, with hollow eyes. She spun around, heart pounding. The bathroom was empty. She checked the lock on the door, still bolted. In bed, she clung to John's arm. "I saw something," she whispered. In the mirror, he groaned, half asleep. "A trick of the light. Sleep, Em," but sleep wouldn't come. Around midnight, the whispers started again, louder now, like a voice right by her ear. "You can't leave." Emily's eyes snapped open. The room was dark, the fan spinning slowly above. At the foot of the bed, she saw it. A faint outline, like a woman standing still, watching. Emily screamed, shaking John awake. "What? What's wrong?" he said, sitting up. "She's here." Emily pointed, but the shape was gone. John turned on the lamp. "Nothing's there, Em. Just a nightmare." But Emily knew it wasn't. The air felt wrong, like it was pressing down on her chest. The apartment wasn't theirs anymore. Something else lived here, and it was getting stronger. Emily's world was shrinking. The apartment in Skyview Towers felt like a cage, its walls closing in with every passing day. She barely left the 15th floor anymore, her days filled with repetitive tasks to keep her mind busy. But no matter how much she cleaned or organized, the unease grew, a shadow that followed her from room to room. The city outside buzzed with life, rickshaws rattling, street vendors shouting, the distant hum of construction. But inside, the silence was oppressive, broken only by sounds that shouldn't be there. She woke up that morning to find bruises on her arms. Small purple marks like fingerprints dotted her skin. She stared at them in the bathroom mirror, her reflection pale and tired. "How did these get here?" she whispered, touching the tender spots. She hadn't bumped into anything, hadn't carried anything heavy. The marks looked deliberate, like someone had grabbed her too hard. She pulled on a long-sleeved shirt to hide them, her hands shaking. John was already at work, leaving a note on the fridge. "Early meeting. Home by 6, love you." Emily crumpled it, her chest tight. He didn't believe her, not really. Every time she mentioned the whispers, the shadows, or Lisa Gray, he'd sigh and talk about stress or old wiring. She wanted to scream, to make him see, but he was gone all day, leaving her alone with whatever haunted this place. To distract herself, Emily decided to go to the market. She needed groceries, milk, bread, vegetables, something normal to anchor her. She took the elevator down, its familiar hum and flickering lights making her stomach churn. In the lobby, Kumar was at his desk sipping chai from a small cup. He glanced up, his eyes narrowing. "Going out, ma'am?" "Just to the market," Emily said, forcing a smile. He nodded slowly. "Be careful. It's crowded today." The market was a short walk away, a chaotic maze of stalls packed with mangoes, spices, and cheap jewelry. The air smelled of fried pakoras and dust. Emily bought tomatoes, onions, and a loaf of bread, her hands clutching the cloth bag tightly. People pushed past her, their voices loud and overlapping. For a moment, she felt normal, part of the city's pulse. But as she turned to leave, a cold breeze brushed her neck, like fingers trailing across her skin. She spun around, expecting someone close, but the crowd moved on, oblivious. The air smelled faintly of decay, like rotting flowers. She hurried back to the building, her heart pounding. Back in the apartment, she unpacked the groceries, her movements mechanical. She chopped onions for lunch, the knife slipping in her sweaty hands. As she worked, the radio on the counter turned on by itself, static crackling through the speakers. She froze, the knife hovering over the cutting board. A voice broke through the noise, low and distorted. "Why are you here?" Emily dropped the knife, backing away. She unplugged the radio, her breath shallow. The plug was warm, like it had been used for hours. She didn't tell John when he got home. He was tired, his eyes red from staring at spreadsheets. They ate dinner, vegetable stir-fry with rice, in near silence. Emily pushed the food around her plate, her appetite gone. The bruises on her arms throbbed under her sleeves. She wanted to show him, to prove something was wrong, but his phone buzzed with work emails, stealing his attention. After dinner, they sat on the couch, watching a game show on TV. The bright colors and cheerful host felt wrong, like a mask over the apartment's gloom. Halfway through, the remote slid off the coffee table, clattering to the floor. John jumped, his eyes wide. "What the hell?" Emily stared at the remote, her pulse racing. "You saw it." He picked it up, checking it like it might explain itself. "Maybe it was loose on the edge." "It wasn't," she said, her voice sharp. "John, things move here." "I'm not imagining it," he sighed, rubbing his temples. You're tired." "We both are. Let's talk to the agent tomorrow. See if the wiring's causing this." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion stopped her. They went to bed early, the fan spinning lazily above. Emily lay awake, listening to John's steady breathing. Around 1 a.m. she felt it, a cold hand brushing her cheek. She gasped, sitting up. The room was dark, but she saw a shape by the door, tall and thin, its edges blurry like smoke. "Lisa?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The shape didn't move, but the air grew heavy, like a storm was coming. Emily shook John awake. "She's here, look." He fumbled for the lamp, his hands clumsy. When the light flicked on, the shape was gone. "Nothing's there," he said, his voice thick with sleep. "Another nightmare." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "It's not a nightmare." I felt her touch me. John pulled her close, his arms warm but not comforting. "You need rest. Maybe a doctor, Em. Stress can do things." She didn't sleep after that. The next day, she stayed in bed late, her body heavy, like she'd run a marathon. When she finally got up, she noticed new bruises on her legs, faint but unmistakable. She called Sarah again, her voice shaking as she explained the marks, the radio, the shape in the dark. Sarah was quiet for a moment. That sounds scary, but maybe John's right. Stress can mess with you. Have you seen a doctor?" Emily hung up angry. No one believed her. She spent the day avoiding the second bedroom, where the whispers seemed loudest. She tried reading, but the words blurred. The apartment smelled wrong again, like damp earth mixed with something sour. She checked every corner. No leaks, no spoiled food. The smell followed her, clinging like damp clothes. That evening, John came home with takeout, biryani from a place down the street. They ate on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Emily tried to enjoy it, but her eyes kept drifting to the apartment's dark windows behind them. "John," she said, setting her plate down. "I'm scared." "This place is doing something to me." He reached for her hand. "We'll figure it out. Maybe we can move if it's that bad." Before she could answer, a glass on the table tipped over, spilling water across the floor. They both stared, frozen. It hadn't been near the edge. John stood, his face pale. "Okay," he said slowly. That was weird. Emily's heart raced. "It's her, Lisa. She's here." John didn't argue this time. He grabbed a cloth, cleaning the spill in silence. But as they went back inside, the lights flickered and the air grew cold. From the second bedroom, they heard it, a low, mournful sob, like someone grieving. Emily grabbed John's arm. "You heard that, right?" He nodded, his jaw tight. "Yeah, I heard it." They stood there staring at the closed door, the apartment no longer feeling like theirs. Something was watching, waiting, and it was growing bolder. Emily's life was unraveling. The apartment on the 15th floor of Skyview Towers no longer felt like a home. It was a prison, its air thick with dread that clung to her like damp fog. She barely recognized herself in the mirror anymore. Her eyes were sunken, shadowed by sleepless nights, and her skin looked pale, almost gray. The bruises on her arms and legs had multiplied, faint purple marks that appeared without explanation, like cruel signatures left by an unseen hand. She hid them under long sleeves and pants, not wanting John to see, not wanting another lecture about stress or doctors. But deep down, she knew these weren't normal. Something was touching her, claiming her. Morning started the same. John left early for work, his briefcase swinging as he promised to be home by dinner. "Call if you need me," he'd say, but his voice carried a hint of impatience now, like he was tired of her fear. Emily nodded, forcing a smile. But the moment the door closed, the apartment seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the old fan, the distant city noise, all of it felt wrong, like a song played out of tune. She tried to keep busy, clinging to routine like a lifeline. That morning she scrubbed the kitchen counters, the sponge scraping against stains that wouldn't budge. The air smelled sour again, like rotting fruit, though the trash was empty and the fridge was clean. She opened the balcony doors, hoping the sea breeze would clear the stench, but it followed her, heavy and inescapable. As she wiped down the sink, a glass on the counter slid an inch, then stopped. Emily froze, her breath catching. She stared at it, waiting. It didn't move again, but the air grew colder, and she felt eyes on her, watching from somewhere she couldn't see. She avoided the second bedroom now, its door always shut. But that afternoon, while folding laundry in the living room, she heard it. A soft knock from inside that room, like knuckles tapping on wood. She dropped the shirt she was holding, her heart pounding. "Hello?" she called, her voice small. No answer, just another knock, slower this time. She backed away, her eyes fixed on the door. It didn't open, but the air felt heavier, like someone was standing just behind it. Emily tried to call John, but her phone wouldn't connect. The screen flickered, showing static for a moment before going black. She plugged it in, thinking the battery was dead, but it was fully charged. When it powered back on, the wallpaper had changed. A grainy image of a woman's face, pale with hollow eyes. Emily screamed, throwing the phone onto the couch. It was Lisa, she was sure of it. The phone buzzed, the screen returning to normal, but her hands shook too much to pick it up. She needed to get out. Grabbing her keys, she rushed to the elevator, her breath ragged. In the lobby, Kumar was at his desk, reading a newspaper. He looked up, his face creasing with concern. "Ma'am, you okay? You look sick." "I'm fine," Emily lied, her voice tight. "Just going for a walk." He nodded, but his eyes lingered on her, like he knew something she didn't. Outside, the city was loud and alive, street vendors hawking samosas, children running through the crowd, motorbikes weaving dangerously close. Emily walked to a small park nearby, sitting on a bench under a banyan tree. The shade was cool, the air clean, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. A cold breeze brushed her neck, and she swore she heard her name whispered in the wind. She hurried back to the building, her heart racing. Back in the apartment, she tried to distract herself with mundane tasks. She swept the floors, the broom's bristles scratching the wood. She watered the one plant they'd brought, a small fern on the balcony, its leaves drooping despite her care. As she poured water, she noticed her reflection in the glass door. Her face looked wrong, her eyes too wide, her mouth twisted. She blinked and it was normal again, but her pulse wouldn't slow. When John came home, he carried a bag of takeout, pav bhaji from a street stall. He set it on the table, loosening his tie. "Rough day," he said, rubbing his eyes. "You okay? You look pale." Emily didn't want to tell him about the glass, the knocks, the phone. He'd brush it off again. But as they ate, the TV turned on by itself, the screen flashing static. John frowned, grabbing the remote. "This thing's acting up again." He clicked it off, but the screen flickered back on and a voice cut through the static. "Stay with me." It was low, feminine, and unmistakable. John dropped the remote, his face white. "What was that?" "You heard it," Emily said, her voice trembling. "It's her, John, Lisa." He stood, checking the TV cables, his hands unsteady. "It's got to be interference. A signal or something." But then the lights dimmed and the air grew cold, like a freezer door had opened. From the second bedroom they heard a thud, like something heavy falling. Emily grabbed John's arm. "Don't go in there." He hesitated, his jaw tight, but curiosity won. He opened the door slowly, the hinges creaking. The room was dark, the boxes untouched, but the necklace Emily had hidden was now on the floor, its pendant glinting in the faint light. "How did this get here?" John asked, picking it up. Emily's stomach twisted. "I hid it." She moved it. John stared at the necklace, his skepticism cracking. "This is weird," he admitted. "But it's just an object. It doesn't mean—" Before he could finish, the door slammed shut behind them, the lock clicking. Emily screamed, tugging at the handle. It wouldn't budge. The air grew colder, and the smell of decay filled the room. A shadow moved in the corner, tall and thin, its edges blurring into the dark. Emily's breath hitched as it stepped closer, its face coming into focus, pale, hollow-eyed. "Lisa, get out," the figure whispered, its voice echoing in Emily's head. John swung a lamp at it, but it passed through, the bulb shattering on the floor. The shadow vanished, and the door clicked open. They stumbled into the living room, panting. Emily's legs gave out, and she sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. "She's real, John. She's trying to take me." He knelt beside her, his face pale. I saw it, but this can't be real. It's got to be something else." Emily shook her head, her voice breaking. "It's her. She's in me sometimes. I feel it." That night they slept with the lights on, but Emily didn't sleep at all. She felt Lisa's presence like a weight in her chest. In the early hours, she woke to find herself standing in the kitchen, a knife in her hand, her reflection in the window showing Lisa's face overlaid on hers. She dropped the knife, sobbing, and crawled back to bed, clinging to John. The spirit wasn't just watching anymore. It was reaching inside her, and it wasn't letting go. The apartment on the 15th floor of Skyview Towers had become a battlefield, its air thick with a presence that no longer hid. Emily was a shadow of herself, her face gaunt, her eyes darting at every creak and flicker. The bruises on her arms and legs had darkened, spreading like ink blots, and she felt Lisa's presence inside her, a cold weight that pressed on her thoughts. John, too, was shaken, his skepticism crumbling after the necklace incident and the shadow in the second bedroom. The apartment was no longer theirs. It belonged to something else, something that wanted them gone or claimed. Morning broke with a gray sky, the city below muffled by a rare drizzle. Emily sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her coffee untouched. John hadn't gone to work, a first since they moved in. He paced the living room, his phone in hand, searching for solutions. "We need help," he said, his voice low. This isn't normal." Emily nodded, her throat tight. "It's Lisa. She's not letting us leave." John stopped, rubbing his face. "I saw her, Em. I don't know what to believe anymore. But we can't stay like this." He scrolled through his phone, finding a local priest's contact from an online ad. "Maybe someone can bless the place or something." Emily didn't respond. Her mind felt foggy, like Lisa's voice was whispering just out of reach. She'd woken that morning with her hands clenched, nails digging into her palms, blood on her fingers. She hadn't told John. She was scared of what she might do next, what Lisa might make her do. The priest arrived by noon, a short man named Father Thomas, with gray hair and a worn leather bag. He carried a small book of prayers and a vial of holy water. The apartment smelled of decay again, stronger now, like something dead was hidden in the walls. Father Thomas walked through the rooms, his eyes narrowing. "This place holds pain," he said, his voice calm but firm. "A spirit lingers, bound by grief or anger. Did you find anything of hers?" Emily showed him the necklace, now kept in a sealed bag. He frowned, touching it through the plastic. "This ties her here. Objects hold memories, sometimes more." He suggested burning it, along with a ritual to cleanse the apartment. John nodded, desperate for anything to work. They prepared in the living room, moving furniture to make space. Father Thomas sprinkled holy water, chanting softly in Latin. Emily sat on the couch, clutching John's hand, her heart racing. The air grew colder, the lights flickering. The priest lit a small fire in a metal bowl, carefully burning the necklace. As the silver melted, a low wail filled the room, like wind howling through a tunnel. Emily's head throbbed, and she felt Lisa's voice scream inside her. "No!" The flames flared, then died. The air stilled, but the smell of decay lingered. Father Thomas looked uneasy. "It's weakened, but not gone. She's strong, tied to this place. You should leave." "We can't," John said, his voice tight. "The lease, our savings." "Then protect yourselves," the priest said, handing them a small pouch of salt. "Keep this near you. Don't stay alone." He left, promising to return if needed. Emily felt hollow, like part of her had burned with the necklace. She spent the day cleaning, her hands moving automatically. She scrubbed the kitchen floor, the tiles cold under her knees. She reorganized the bookshelf, the same books falling again, always the horror novel. She threw it in the trash, her hands shaking. The city outside was loud, horns, voices, life, but it felt like a different world. John tried to work from home, his laptop open on the dining table. He typed emails, but his eyes kept darting to the second bedroom door, still closed. "We'll move," he said finally. "I'll talk to the agent tomorrow." "We can't stay here." Emily nodded, but she felt Lisa's presence stronger now, like a shadow stitched to her skin. That evening they ate takeout, noodles from a nearby stall, in silence. The TV stayed off, its screen a dark mirror reflecting the room. As they cleared the plates, the lights went out completely, plunging the apartment into darkness. John cursed, fumbling for his phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, but it flickered like something was draining it. From the second bedroom came a sound, a slow, deliberate scratching like nails on wood. Emily's breath hitched. "She's angry," she whispered. John grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen, his hands unsteady. "Stay here." He moved toward the door, ignoring Emily's pleas. He opened it, the hinges screaming. The room was pitch black, the air freezing. The flashlight beam caught something, a figure tall and thin, standing in the center. Lisa's face was clear now, pale and twisted, her eyes black voids. "You can't leave," she hissed, her voice echoing in the walls and Emily's head. John stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. Emily screamed, pulling him into the living room. The door slammed shut on its own, the lock clicking. The air grew heavy, the smell of decay choking them. Emily felt Lisa inside her, a cold force pushing at her thoughts. She clutched her head, her nails digging into her scalp. "Get out of me!" she screamed. John grabbed her, dragging her toward the front door. He yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge, like the building itself was holding them. The windows rattled, though no wind blew outside. Shadows danced on the walls, growing larger, closer. Lisa's form appeared again, blocking the door, her voice a low growl. "You're mine." In desperation, John grabbed the salt pouch, tearing it open and throwing it at the figure. The salt scattered and Lisa's form flickered, her scream piercing the air. The door clicked open and they ran, stumbling down the stairs, the elevator forgotten. The stairwell echoed with their footsteps, the air cold and heavy. They reached the lobby, Kumar staring wide-eyed as they burst out. "Don't go back," he said, his voice low. "She never leaves." They stayed in a cheap hotel that night, their belongings left behind. John called the agent, breaking the lease, consequences be damned. They found a small house on the city's edge, far from Skyview Towers. Life slowly returned to normal. John went to work. Emily started teaching again. But at night, when the house was quiet, Emily heard whispers in the wind, faint but unmistakable. "I'm still here." Skyview Towers stood tall, its 15th floor apartment empty, waiting. The city moved on, but some shadows never fade.